So, like, I guess the question is more like, are you worried eventually that there's going to be so like enough organizations on there that the original intent will kind of get drowned out?
Well, so at the end of the day, uh, if you want to make change, you need to organize. And you organize by forming an organization, right? Whether that's a formal organization or an informal organization. Um, so at the end of the day, people will probably be making the most change through organizations. Now, maybe the question is it through nonprofits, right? Or organizations with pure humanitarian ideas behind them? Or is it organizations that are profit driven and cater to corporate interests?
That's probably a better
And
way to phrase the question.
and I if you bring both of those sets of organizations to the same platform and you present the ideas they have in a very transparent manner, um, I don't know, this might be overly optimistic, but I think that represents an easier way for people to fight back against these organizations, right? Like if you see, oh, hey, Lockheed is meeting with all of these elected officials,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you see how elected officials are changing their policy positions, you go lobby them yourself, or you work really hard to vote them out, right? And vote somebody in who isn't going to be so easily swayed by Lockheed. And I
Yeah,
don't mean to just keep using Lockheed, like they're just
and
sort of a scapegoat.
any
Yeah, yeah,
corporate, any 800-pound gorilla, as people like
exactly.
to say. I guess, yeah, I agree with you a little bit, but also the it's the resources behind the organization is where I'm not so sure that long term it like long term for you guys, unless you put some sort of measure in place that like limits the amount of time that somebody can meet with a candidate a week or whatever.
Mhm.
it's it's
Also,
it's the
I
money
will say
standpoint that like the
these.
resources behind, like if you like, hey, we'll take this time to meet with you, oh, by the way, we donated $1 million to your super PAC that's going to
Mhm.
do this. Like, you or I or a nonprofit can't do that. Like you were talking about earlier with the citizen lobbying, it's like you didn't have the resources to do that. And so what, like, I guess the question is more like, do you have, so one, it seems like you've thought about it, but two, do you guys have ideas for how to sort of prevent um, lobbying to start taking place in the exact same way that it is now, just virtually because we're in a pandemic?
Yeah. So I will say these corporations that I think you're referring to, they're already doing all this,
Sure.
right? Like whether or not our platform exists, they are dumping the money into doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Our platform existing might make them a little bit more effective, but it'll make people who aren't currently doing this or are doing this in a very ineffective manner, which tends to be nonprofits and advocacy organizations, right? It'll give them a much bigger boost.
That's a good point.
So that's kind of the first idea. The second idea is our long-term vision is this being a platform for political engagement, just in general,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my personal sort of political position is let us fix Citizens United, right? Let's fix that decision. But if that doesn't happen, money in politics is so important. And people today do not really have a good way to understand their options for where their money can go to best affect change. But if all of this is happening on one platform, they can see, oh, and these PACs, I'm sure a lot of these PACs will be off our platform. Like the big corporate PACs won't be touching by the people,
Sure.
but a lot of that information is public, right? And we'll
Mm-hmm.
bring that onto the platform. And so, people can see where these PACs are spending their money. And then you can build like citizen PACs. And this might be very optimistic, right? It's something we haven't tried. It's something we would like to try. But you can build citizen PACs to start to counteract these large corporate PACs. Is the hope. And it is very optimistic, but without eliminating Citizens United, you need a better way for people to be able to allocate money to fighting these PACs.
Definitely. That makes sense. That's a good point. It's good that you guys have thought of that for sure.
And I mean, we could be wrong too, right? Like, we'll adjust as things come up. Because it's definitely a concern for us, right? We don't want this platform being taken over by just large corporate interests.
Yeah, and that would be a very big down the road type deal. Yeah. Like, nobody that size is gonna, no offense, is gonna care about by the people at this point.
No, absolutely.
So you mentioned that some people don't have a way or don't know how to figure out where the money is going, that either PACs spend or like that they donate. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I'll clarify that a little bit. All of that, most of that information is actually public, and you can find that information, I think, at opensecrets.org, I think.
We'll put the link in the description. Regardless, we can talk afterwards and get the right website in there.
Yeah, and so what is hidden is where the funding for these PACs are actually coming from. That information is not public, but how much money these PACs get and where they're spending their money, that is public information. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It does, but so what is so a PAC gets a donation. What sorts of things do they spend on? I know most people, the understanding is, they'll donate to somebody's campaign or to a lobby. Is that pretty much it, or is it more than that?
It tends to be, and I haven't gone too much into the weeds on like how PACs exactly work, but it's my understanding they can't just donate to a candidate, right? Because there are certain caps for how much money you can donate to a candidate. But what they can do is they can run ads against that candidate's opponent, right? Or they can run ads that support that candidate, right? And so like that is really how these PACs affect change, is they run ads outside of the candidate's typical campaign, and then like they're not allowed to talk, though they typically do.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say typically, but
it wouldn't surprise anyone if they did.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the typical way that PACs influence elections.
So how did are you well versed in sort of the history of PACs and that sort of thing, or not so much?
Not so much, honestly. I mean, it came out of the Citizens United decision. But beyond that, I honestly couldn't talk a whole lot about that decision.
That's all right. I was just wondering, because we could, we'll save that for another podcast when By the People has more users, has more people.
Sounds good.
And we can get you back on.